Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to another episode of Sree's daily global COVID-19 show. My name is Sree Sreenivasan, and it's my honor to convene this daily conversation around all things COVID-19. Sunday nights are extra special around here as we do positivity with an asterisk every Sunday night. We try to keep things generally positive despite every rotten thing going on. We interview purposeful people who can get us ready for the week. And today we have a very special guest for you. The Venerable Tenzin Priyadarshi is our guest, the founding director of the Dalai Lama Center for Ethics and Transformative Values at MIT, a center dedicated to inquiry, dialogue, and education on the ethical and humane dimensions of life. Please check him out at imonk.org. You'll hear all about him and get a chance to talk to him in just a couple of minutes. Hi, everyone. I'm Sree. Thank you so much for being here. I'm the Marshall Loeb Visiting Professor of Digital Innovation at Stony Brook School of Journalism and the co-founder of Digimentors, a social, digital, and virtual events consulting company. Our motto, don't cancel your event without talking to us. We can help you with your virtual events. We've done events for 50 people and 100,000 people. We're sure your events are somewhere in between. If you haven't seen the show before, we love talking to folks from around the world, and we get to meet folks. We're just so grateful to everyone who's supported us, and we are grateful to our fabulous sponsors and producers, including Rose Horowitz at Rose Horowitz 31 and Vandana Menon, Vandana_Menon. Please follow them on Twitter. So tell us where you're watching from. We'll bring our guest on in just a second. We're live on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn. So everyone, please hit share right now. You can tag a friend and they can watch live or they can watch us later. And we will take your questions, take your comments, and we'd love to know where you're watching from. And also, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask anything tonight. And so with that, let me bring on our guest, the Venerable Tenzin Priyadarshi, the founding director of the Dalai Lama Center for Ethics and Transformative Values at MIT. We are very grateful to him for his time tonight. So let's bring him on. Hello, sir.
Hi.
How are you? Thank you for being here.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
We do namaste with a lot of our guests, but we can do it especially with you.
Yes,
and
certainly.
We're very grateful to you for being here. My first question to everyone is, how are you? Where are you? And how are you and your closest ones handling the pandemic?
Well, thank you for asking. I think the closest ones seem to be doing well. And I am actually stationed outside of Arizona in a remote location for the moment.
Wow. So, well, that's great that you were able to join us. Are your days filled like ours, going one Zoom call to another Zoom call?
Some days, yes. And especially since all of our teachings and advising has moved online. So, yeah, the many facets of Zoom.
Yeah, exactly. Tell us, about your work and a little bit also your life story. It's so fascinating. You were born in India, and at a very young age, you decided to move in a path that is very unusual for most folks.
Sure. I mean, that's what I have tried to pen down in this new book that was just released, Running Toward Mystery. Born in India, pretty much raised there until I was 17, entered monastery when I was 10, literally in the aftermath of running away from my school. And serendipitously, now at MIT, after sort of a windy journey through life. Currently, I wear several hats at MIT, but one of the things that I do is run the Dalai Lama Center. And I think in a nutshell, I would say that my work today is mostly focused on promoting and nurturing ethical imagination.
Tell us what that means. That's an unusual term.
It primarily sort of is an exploration of individuals and civic society to pay attention to ethical framing of their choices and their decision making. And it's something that a lot of us do think about, but often sort of forget to engage in, especially when the pressures of life are hitting us hard. The center started around 2008, 2009. So one of the catalysts for it was the financial meltdown. And if you remember, the premise of the financial meltdown was that fundamentally, if you sort of boil down the complexity of financial market, it sort of pointed or alluded to human greed and deceit. And so one of the curiosities that I had was what are education systems around the world, especially those that are claiming to educate the next generation of business leaders, doing anything about mitigating these particular sort of aspects of human behavior. And that's where ethical imagination really comes in, which is to sort of encourage forms of critical thinking, encourage forms of ethical framing around design, around choices, around perception, decision making, and so on.
And when you proposed this, or this was proposed to MIT, how did that become your home?
So I started at MIT when I was still a grad school in 2002. To digress, the story is a bit funny because I was still in grad school, so I was very focused on my studies. And one morning I received an email that said, the president and I have heard of you. Would you like to come for a cup of tea this week? Signed by one of the deans at MIT. And I thought that email was as good as a gentleman from Nigeria trying to offer me $1 million for no good reason. But there was a local phone number, so I thought it won't cost me much. So I called the number, and it turned out to be a genuine email. And that was sort of my beginning of engagements at MIT. I was brought on to design certain experimental programs around meditation and study of meditation. So fast forward in 2007, 2008, I started floating this idea with a few colleagues about, what can we do to sort of, create or promote this idea of ethics. And of course, there were certain reservations because the scientific community doesn't want anything that might restrict or interrupt the progress of science itself. And when you look at ethical conversations in this country, there's a lot of polarizing that happens, unfortunately. And so I had to make a distinction between self-righteousness and ethical, and sort of trying to suggest this thing that we could still progress or advance in our scientific explorations, and perhaps we'll be able to do it better if we had an ethical framing around why we are studying what we are studying.
And so what is the center now? Now it has grown, obviously, and it's been several years. So give us a sense of it, please.
It did, and it largely speaks to the need of the hour, so to speak. So the center now operates in about 11 countries. It partners with a variety of educational institutions, but we also work with legal justice systems. We work with law enforcement agencies, government, systems of governance, and we sort of work all across the border to figure out ways in which we can make the conversation of ethics relevant, but actually help sort of think about the whole design process, whether it's around policy making or whether it's around product development or whether it's around, how do we rethink education.
And how does that all fit in with what's happening today with all the crises we are encountering all around us?
I think that's why I meant by need of the hour, that people are curious, people are looking at a number of things. One, for example, in this last few months of pandemic, we are sort of in a moment of crisis, thinking about a post-pandemic reality. So there's a lot of this conversation around the new normal. And one of the things is, of course, the human urge, the habitual urge is to sort of go back to normal. Not that the old normal was anything great. People were still miserable, and people were trying to get out of the mechanical rut of things. People wanted change. And so part of the ethical imagination there is that, can we actually envision what this new normal is going to be like? What are the conditions from the old world that we want to perpetuate or bring into the new world, versus what are the things that we want to get rid of? So that's more around sort of the civic thinking of the new normal. But at the same time, we are also working with a bunch of entities and enterprises around tech design and looking at this idea of that we must sort of critically think through this process of techno optimism that is sort of rooted in large part in the techno culture, especially in Silicon Valley and elsewhere, where the sense, this blanket statement that anything that I design is going to change the world for a better, and that's the thing that where I want to suggest certain pauses, reflective pauses, to really deeply think about the whole design process and where the flaws might be. In some ways, holding the mirror to the industry, because just like Wall Street, I think Silicon Valley has engaged a lot in this process of virtue signaling.
Yes.
And at one point or the other, you have to recognize that virtue signaling is precisely that. It is signaling. It is not virtue. It's not virtue development, and it doesn't actually, lead to a virtuous pathway for civic society.
Well, let's tell everyone a little bit about your book. It's called Running Towards Mastery: The Adventure of an Unconventional Life, and it has some fabulous blurbs and testimonials, enthralling from beginning to end. Venerable Tenzin is a spiritual teacher much needed for our complex world, Ariana Huffington. And then Running Towards Mystery is not merely a book, but an experience, a biography, a formula for living, and a manifesto for a new kind of exploration of life. This is from Siddharth Mukherjee, the amazing Pulitzer Prize-winning author of The Emperor of Maladies. And Robert Thurman, the good friend of the Dalai Lama, says, Venerable Tenzin's story is utterly amazing, told with honesty and elegance. It is very inspiring for anyone seeking the truth of life or even trying to find themselves. Once I started this journey with him, running away from home as a 10-year-old to follow his own vision, I couldn't put this down. I wholeheartedly recommend this book, this touching memoir to everyone. And those are just some of these amazing blurbs that you've gotten for this book, everyone. It's called Running Towards Mystery: The Adventure of an Unconventional Life. And we'd love to hear from you. Tell us where you're watching from. We're live right now on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Please share this with friends and family. Tag them so they can watch this later. We have so many questions and comments coming in, including Ashok is watching in India right now and says, how to associate with your activities in India?
So there is a foundation in India that works a lot on healthcare and education issues in rural India. But also the Dalai Lama Center for Ethics has a branch in India, and we're hoping to build a facility in Hyderabad with the same intention of partnering with a variety of universities, but also with enterprises that train civil servants, law enforcement agents, and so on to work with this thing. And so in the public programs that happens, please feel free to join us. Please feel free to send suggestions on how you would like to associate with things. And on the center's website, you will find an email that you can send to our offices.
And the website is thecenter.mit.edu. I imagine MIT has a lot of centers, so for you to get thecenter.mit.edu is pretty cool.
Well, it serves a twofold purpose. I mean, it's not just the aspect of the center, but it calls for centering oneself as well. So
we're seeing a beautiful picture of you with the Dalai Lama. First of all, how's he doing through all of this? We did an event recently where he sent a message. So he's also active in the Zoom world. But what is your sense of how things are going? And is he in Dharamshala for the duration?
He is. He's a remarkable individual. And as you know, he just turned 85 or so. He's doing very well and very good health. And he's such a resilient youthful mind that he adapted to technology instantly, and so now he's broadcasting all over the world, being this much needed moral voice in this time of sheer confusion. So we are very fortunate to have him around and to be able to be connected to him virtually.
That's great to hear. Steve Taylor says hello from Philadelphia. Give us a memory of Philadelphia, please. Yeah, from you, yes.
From me?
Yes.
I don't have any memory of Philadelphia. I was never there.
You've never visited Philadelphia. Okay, we've got to.
I don't believe so.
Okay, not too far for certainly you could fix that at some point. Okay, here. Okay, we'll ask you for a memory from New York. Jonathan's watching from the East Village, only a few blocks from Tibet House.
Oh, that is cool. Tibet House is a wonderful place. Robert Thurman is a very dear friend, a very dear spiritual friend, and I actually serve on the board of Tibet House, and I encourage individuals to visit that place as it opens up after COVID. But it's like a sanctuary in the middle of New York City. So yes.
Great. Linda's watching from Long Island. Rahajan is watching from Long Island. Sheikh is watching from Kashmir. We have multiple people watching. Ashok says he's ordered the book already, so that's good.
Very kind.
Is watching from Chicago. How about a Chicago memory, sir?
I've only been to Chicago a few times, and I think the last time I was there was because of a forum hosted by The Economist on artificial intelligence, and that's one of the things that I have been doing a deep dive in to, the ethics and governance of AI. But I love the city. The music scene is fascinating. When I went there, it was really cold. People were really warm.
Oh, that's nice. There's a lot of chance that it'll be cold whenever you go there. about 6-7 months a year, it's pretty cold. Here's Ravi watching from Bangalore. He says, beautiful Bangalore.
Bangalore is beautiful. It is getting too crowded too fast, but I have visited it on few occasions, and I really like the city.
Great. Apollo is watching from Montclair, New Jersey, so happy to be here. And Nirmala says watching from India. And Ashok says, I follow the Holy Dalai Lama too. And Ravi is asking, is COVID helping us design for a better future?
I think what COVID is giving us is a long moments of reflective pauses, and that's what we needed. Once in a while, we need to sort of get off the mechanical wheel. And the premise of my book is that whether we are religious or spiritual or not, all humans are contemplative. That we need to sort of explore this faculty more, this reflective faculty more. And that's what I believe COVID is helping us do, that it's a moment of solitude. It's a moment to deeply understand how things are so interconnected, and to really think about our old patterns as individuals and as civic society, and say, what kind of new world, what kind of future do we actually wish to co-create?
And are you hopeful coming out of this?
I am. I mean, one of the byproducts of being religious is that you're eternally optimistic, realistic, but also optimist in certain ways. And I have tremendous sense of faith in human resilience. I do understand that the patterns are hard to change, the habits are very hard to change, but I do have some faith in human resilience, and I am hopeful that individuals, at least certain group of individuals, will take this particular time quite seriously and think deeply, truly about what kind of world do we wish to sort of perpetuate.
Thank you. Let's talk about these two photographs we're seeing on screen. One is a moment with the Dalai Lama.
They're very kind and inspirational individuals. That particular image with the Dalai Lama is actually at Kresge at MIT, and that was at the launch of the center in 2009, where he graciously visited the campus to speak to students and faculty. And the photograph next to it is with Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And this particular one, I believe, was taken in Cape Town on his 85th birthday celebration. Again, a tremendous, tremendous individual. We should all consider ourselves very fortunate to live in a time when both of these individuals are alive and well and guiding us.
Very true, and both beautiful pictures. Tell us about this prayer prayer of aspiration that you have put on the website.
This is selected verses from one of the more prominent Buddhist masters, Indian Buddhist master Shantideva, who was a central figure at the ancient Nalanda University, the Buddhist university in India. And one of his seminal works is Guide to Bodhisattva's Way of Life, a text that talks a lot about how to cultivate compassion, how to cultivate altruism. And this aspirational verse is that which sort of guides me as a Buddhist monk, guides many practitioners of the tradition of how they can make their life purposeful day by day.
That is beautiful. Do you mind reading a little bit of it?
No, certainly. May I be a protector for those without protection, a guide for travelers, a boat, a bridge, and a ship for those who wish to cross over. May I be a lamp for those who seek light, a bed for those who seek rest. May I be a servant for all beings who desire a servant. To all sentient beings, may I be a wish-fulfilling gem, a vase of good fortune, an efficacious mantra, a great medication, a wish-fulfilling tree, and a wish-granting cow. Just as earth and other elements are useful in various ways to innumerable sentient beings dwelling throughout infinite space, so may I, be in various ways, be a source of life for the sentient beings present throughout space until they are liberated. In Sanskrit, it's just very poetic and beautiful verse.
Wow, I feel so good just hearing this. Thank you, and you have a beautiful reading voice as well. I put you kind of on the spot there, but thank you for doing that. Vandana Menon, one of our producers, who was reminded by her father that she once met you in Hyderabad at a friend's home, asks, how can we cultivate both faith and emotional detachment during this deeply turbulent time?
I think the faith aspect firstly needs to be in oneself and faith in people around us, in the sense that not everything is as bad, and although there may be times of despair, there may be times then where we are overwhelmed by this sense of hopelessness, but to sort of appeal to the goodness that each one of us possess. And to truly shine that, one of the things that I often recommend individuals that, we shouldn't simply think about an external environment or a world which sort of contributes to a sense of serenity, to a sense of peacefulness, to a sense of emotional stability, and so on. That we should also think about, what do we bring into this world? Can we bring in the serenity from within into this world? Can we bring in a sense of hopefulness from within into this world? And so it's an important element to recognize the power of human behavior, of human mindset, and how we can bring it in. And this particular time is a tremendous sort of opportunity for us to reflect on emotional resilience. We can all do with a little more kindness. We can all do with a little more compassion around us, but not just to expect or anticipate that will be manifested by others, but also suggesting to ourselves on a regular basis, how can I bring about a bit more kindness in my speech, in my action, in my thought on a daily basis? That it doesn't need to be a monumental thing. Mother Teresa often used to express that we all, not all of us can do great things, but we all can engage in small acts with great kindness. And that is something that we're all called to do during such times.
That's beautiful and so important. The way you've put that. There's a comment here from Ashok says, really feeling positive after hearing the mantra. Beautiful and resilient voice. So thank you very much. Mary and Charles are watching from New Jersey. Thank you for joining us tonight. Do you ever reflect on your own journey, the unlikely story of a young Hindu boy who at the age of 10 runs away? You've written a book about this, but do you ever stop and think how many things should have the odds of your becoming associated with MIT and having this incredible life, helping so many people, being associated with the Dalai Lama, founding a center with his name on it? What do you attribute that to?
Mystery. hence the title of this book, Running Toward Mystery, because I like to think that I'm a very sort of rational individual, but there are certain episodes of my life where the decisions were very non-rational. I don't like to think that they were irrational, but they were non-rational in the sense that the logic, the reasoning that was available to me at that particular phase of life do not fully decipher why I chose what I chose, what I do, what I do. And the irony is that by the time I turned 16, I actually had an aversion to formal education. At 16, if you had told me that you will go to undergrad and grad school and end up working at a university, I would have laughed because I thought that this education was not making much sense at that moment in time. But one of the wonderful things that has occurred in my life, and which is reflected in the theme of the book, is the extraordinary individuals that I have met. Their sense of grace, their sense of blessing that comes in forms of their teachings, and the wonderful teachable moments, and approaching this life just with the sense of curiosity and inquisitiveness has allowed for things to come. And I don't know what the next 10 years, 5 years, 30 years are going to look like, but that mindset is there to approach things with a degree of inquisitiveness. And of course, I reflect, I look back, and I sometimes chuckle, I sometimes laugh as to how things just evolved.
Amazing. That's really special. We should also tell everyone that on your website, imonk.org, we also learn you're a fabulous photographer. So let's share some of the pictures that you have been taking and sharing. It's called Through a Monk's Eyes. So why don't we glance through some of these pictures? You tell us which one I should dig into. Pick one of these.
Anyone. You could pick Tibet. You could pick.
Okay, let's go to Tibet. Let's pick
Tibet. That was from my visit in early 2000. And again, it was a serendipitous thing. I got to Nepal and I recognized that the borders were closed. I wasn't sure if I would be able to get in, and I got in. And it was just this beautiful experience of being there, and really this sense of what we have lost in this process of trying to create a monotonous culture in some ways, and of the new form of political parties and so on. I think Tibet reminds us of why diversity is so important, why we should not create a world of monoculture.
And what is the story there today for people like you to go there? We don't hear enough about what's happening in Tibet. So whatever you can tell us.
I think situations are very challenging, as you might have recently noticed from all the media, especially focus on the Uyghur Muslims in mainland China. The situation in Tibet has been pretty much like that since 1959. We just hope that things will get better. We just hope that people will have freedom to practice their own religion, to express themselves in their own native language, and to sort of really, continue to not only preserve, but actually evolve this beautiful culture that has very close ties with India. And Tibetans in that regard had been both the preservers and stewards of a Buddhist culture in India. So I do hope that whatever our political differences might be, that if we do want to see a more harmonious world, that we heed the call of His Holiness the Dalai Lama to find the middle path.
Wow. I would have imagined people like you may not be received well in Tibet, or would you just keep a low profile?
Well, I probably won't be able to make another trip.
I understand. Let's go back and let's look at the many moons here. Look at these. I guess I can tell some of these are in Arizona.
They are. Actually, these were all taken during after the pandemic hit. Since I have been stationed here, and few of them are from Buddha Purnima, from Buddha's birthday, and it's just nature is beautiful. It's one of those things when you read the lessons from early desert fathers who used to say that there are two books of revelation. One is Bible, but the other is nature. And you truly realize how beautiful, how wonderful it is to be in nature, and to deeply understand how intricately we are part of all of it.
Tell us how you're capturing these images. It's beautiful. What do you shoot with? And
that one, I believe, is a Canon just with the 400 zoom lens. I'm still sort of struggling to navigate the world of telescopes, but haven't gone there yet. I just dabble with these things. I just find, photography as an interesting way to look at things. Henri Cartier-Bresson, the famous French photographer, used to speak of this thing called decisive moments, when you bring one probable moment into reality just by pressing the shutter button. And it's a very sort of Buddhist way of looking at the world, the sense of decisive moments, that at any moment you have infinite number of choices, and by picking that particular moment, you choose your reality.
That's beautiful. We're going to see now some pictures from Varanasi, which I like to tell everyone. In America, when people say the Holy Land, they mean Jerusalem and the area around it. And for Indians, of course, for many Indians, when we say the Holy Land, we mean parts of Varanasi as an example. And the Buddha, after he gained enlightenment, was on his way to Varanasi and stopped at a deer park in Sarnath, and where he gave his first sermon. And I had the honor of taking my class from Columbia Journalism School with R.A. Goldman, the renowned New York Times religion reporter. We went there and spent time, and we're in that park, which is just such a moving place. A lot of it is paid for, the upkeep is paid for the Japanese government, along with, of course, lots of money from the Indian government. So Japan takes a really big interest, of course, because of the land of the Buddha.
That is true. That is true. And Varanasi is a city where all forms of paradoxes coexist. And so oftentimes I even tell my students who go there that you will see truly how beautiful and how complex reality is in a city such as this. And it has, of course, a very long, rich history that some suggest goes back up to 4,000 years. And so, but it's just you will never find more serenity in chaos as you will find in the Ghats of Banaras.
Beautifully put. Banaras is the other name for Varanasi, and the Ganga River or the Ganges floats by it, and you'll see incredible scenes of devotion and also of grief, as that's where a lot of ashes are scattered and Hindu bodies are cremated on the banks of the river. But the sunrise and the sunset are two of the most special times, aren't they?
They are just truly magical.
And this is great. Let's do one more set of photographs. You get to pick. Where shall we go next?
Let's go up to sadhus. That one.
So sadhu is a word, the Sanskrit word for sage or monk, right?
That is correct. That is correct. They are mostly wandering mendicants. And that's where I got the inspiration for this idea of I monk, which is itinerant monk.
It's not
This
iPod
one,
monk. It's not an Apple. It's not an Apple.
no, it's not. It's not. It implies this perpetual journey that we are on, and I do maintain, outside of this extraordinary conditions because of pandemic, a very itinerant lifestyle. And these sets of images were taken of again these remarkable individuals at Kumbh Mela, which, as some of you may be aware, is perhaps the largest human gathering on planet. It happens every 12 years, and anywhere between 15 to 30 million individuals gather on the banks of River Ganges in different locations. And it was just delightful, truly a sense of spiritual joy being here. And again, using the same expression, that this sense of finding serenity in chaos, and that was the beauty of Kumbh Mela.
This is just beautiful. So everyone, please take a look at imonk.org. You'll find these beautiful photographs and also a chance to kind of see through the eyes of a monk, this itinerant monk, as we heard, as he called himself. We only have a few more minutes left with you. One of the things that I'm really keen on hearing about is that blend between science and the mystical and mystery. What can we learn, and what have we learned from this pandemic that will help us get through this? The president says to us that we're rounding a corner, even as his vice president's office has had an eruption of pandemic of coronavirus. There's so much uncertainty in the next 10 days as the elections, and then what happens after. So what do you tell your students? What do you tell yourself about how we get through all of this? We have seen that a failure in lack of the failure that comes from a lack of faith in science is where I blame America's situation today. And how do you reconcile that with religion and everything else?
I think one of the I think commonalities I would suggest between religion and science is to approach the world with a sense of intellectual humility. There's a lot that we don't know. The nature of reality is such that we should approach it with this sense of humility, and not with this arrogant sort of sense of certitude that there is. And when we encounter moments such as these in human history, we should listen truly to certain kind of sets of advices that is coming from a community that has dedicated their life to study such phenomena, pandemics and so on, and not make it so much about an issue of freedom. But this is also truly the time to recognize that are we as humans truly as caring and as kind as we portray ourselves to be. And so, it's in moments such as these, we truly sort of come face to face with what are the values that we truly cherish, both as individuals, but also as civic society. And this is a crucial time. It's a crucial time specifically because the world is going through a certain form of leadership deficit. And if we have faith in an institution called democracy, then we must, as civic society, exercise our ability to choose so that we could mitigate the sense of leadership deficit, not only for ourselves, but for generations to come. Because as we have seen, the policies and decisions that we make now will have impact 10, 20, 50 years down the road, specifically when it comes to issues of climate.
And that's something that is so important, the climate change impact that we're going to see. We're already seeing, right? We've been told that the planetary date of no return is something that we might face in a decade. And depending on how this election goes, we may not have a chance. And it's so sad to see this. Ravi says, how does one rationalize bad and terrible things happening to seemingly good, harmless people without taking the help of rebirth and karma as a way of framing that question?
I think it is both both a simple but also a complex question. It's I'm blanking on the writer's name. I think it's Cushman or somebody who wrote why do when bad things happen to good people. Humans like to rationalize. We generally like to rationalize. We want to see into causality of things, and that's again one of the things that we have to recognize, that our knowledge is incomplete. Our knowledge is finite, and that's why we have to approach life and events of life as they unfold with the sense of intellectual humility, that causation is there, but we may not have access yet to knowing all things that are happening there. And that's what is highlighted, of course, in this Indic tradition of the value of karma. The beauty of karma is that it makes you truly recognize the sense of a moral agency that we as individuals carry in society.
And so, what do you tell folks who ask you about that pain that we're seeing, where so many terrible things continue to happen?
The aspect of it is, pay attention to it, observe it, and make sure that you're not contributing to it. Make sure that you are not perpetuating human misery and causes of suffering there. And in time, as you reflect deeply on it, maybe you will gain more clarity on why such things were happening and so on. Our periphery of knowledge sometimes is very short term, and it's very difficult to understand the sequences of events as they unfold.
That's true. Rajan says, yes, Harold S. Kushner,
Harold Kushner,
was
yes,
the author of Why Do Bad Things Happen to Good People. Do you, as someone who became a Buddhist at a very young age, what attracted you to Buddhism, and what have you found in it that is different from other religions in the world?
I think, the fact is that there are different kinds of Buddhism, culturally and otherwise, as it has evolved historically. But one of the things that I truly find Buddhism unique in certain ways is the sense of curiosity, the sense of inquiry, the sense of the encouragement to investigate, not to take things at face value. That even Buddha, famously said that do not take my words at face value just because the Buddha said so. Examine it, analyze it, as a goldsmith analyzes the purity of gold, burn it, smash it, and so on. You see, so the sense that when you're examining Buddha's words or Buddha's teachings, you're not just approaching it with a sense of reverence, but you also approach it with a sense of irreverence, in the sense that it is an object of inquiry, and how it actually helps us look at the world, look at ourselves. And increasingly, as you will notice, even in the West, as there are various kinds of behavioral movements such as mindfulness and meditation, and its intersection with well-being and wellness of society and so on, that's taking place, you begin to recognize the wealth of study and analysis that this tradition has developed in the last 2,600 years or so. It just leads to this sort of fascinating understanding of human behavior and human mind, and not only, of course, how to approach the nature of reality.
That's beautiful. So why don't we make this the last question? This is from Mukul Pandya, who asks, in your practice as a monk, what is the biggest challenge you faced? How did you overcome it? And what did you learn from it? Please take your time.
That's a very good question. I think the biggest challenge on certain days, perhaps, is to maintain a sense of hopefulness in this world. Oftentimes it seems the task seems monumental, and as when we were reading the aspiration verses from Shantideva, that as a Buddhist, you are training to cultivate the sense of compassion, the sense of altruism that should reach everyone without a sense of affinity. And what I mean by sense of affinity is that it's very easy for us as humans to be empathetic, to be kind to individuals who look like us, who speak the same language, who believe in the same thing, meaning that our ordinary sense of empathy and kindness oftentimes is simply an extension of a tribal behavior. But when the Buddhists are talking about cultivation of empathy, compassion, pushing the boundaries of empathy, the sense to be able to look at all sentient life, you see, with the same sense of care, even if somebody disagrees with you, even if somebody challenges your perspectives, your point of view, and so on. And so they're day in and day out that as you stabilize your practice, you will notice that there are triggers, there are challenges to your sense of compassion, and it sort of questions in a good way your sense of resilience towards these things. And at the end of the day, you come out a stronger practitioner with a greater degree of clarity.
That's absolutely beautiful. We are going to give you, we're going to come to you with a final, not a final question, but a chance to give us your final thoughts. And before we do that, I just want to remind everybody that on Sundays, we have a very busy day here at at Digimentors, and we started this morning with an editor at the obituaries desk, Amy Padnani, as we celebrate 5 years of reading the New York Times out loud on the New York Times Read Along. Please go back and watch that episode. It's incredible on our YouTube channel. And also today, She's on Call. Our friends, Dr. Sujana Chandrasekhar and Dr. Marina Kurian hosted 3 doctors talking about eyes and so much more. You can find it all at She's on Call, this fantastic show that we host every Sunday. So please take a look at those. And with that, we come back now to the Venerable Tenzin Priyadarshi with a final thought for all of us.
Well, no, thank you again for this wonderful opportunity. If I may, I would simply sort of, again, suggest what I have tried to echo in the book, that if you approach life with a sense of open-mindedness, you will find teachers and teaching moments at all junctures of life. And especially in such times of uncertainty, we should not fear uncertainty, but we should try to sort of think of ways in which we let go of this false sense of certitude that we have sort of habitually tried to linger on to. And when you embrace mystery in its fullest sense, it actually sort of opens you up to recognizing your own potential as a human and what you can do as a human. And the key thing is never let go of this contemplative journey. And as I said earlier, you need not be religious, you need not be spiritual, you need not fall into any brackets of the religious pantheon and so on. But just by virtue of being human, you are a contemplative. Anytime you have asked questions around the purpose, meaningfulness of life, joy of life, and so on, pursue that question with a sense of urgency, with a sense of eagerness, with a sense of zeal.
Thank you so much. Here's some final comments. Ashok says, would like to invite you to Kerala after the crisis is over with your book. So that's an invitation. And Jonathan says, great program. Must remember to get back to Tibet House once it reopens. Namaste. And Rahajan says, excellent program. Thank you and blessings to you and your respective families. So that is very nice. Just great to have this perspective. Everyone, please check out imonk.org and please check out his book, Running Towards Mystery. I have felt blessed tonight to have you with us, and I know people around the world are very grateful to you as well. And with that, we will say good night. Sunita Mukhi says, great reiteration to keep our compassion and hold on to awe and hope in these restive times. Thank you both, Sree and Tenzin. And Sunita lives in Manila, but it worked for many years at Asia Society, where I got to know her through, and Rachel Cooper, who introduced us.
Yes,
us. And Rachel is absolutely amazing, and so grateful to her for bringing us all together. What a small world.
That it is. Thank you so very much again.
All right. Thank you, everybody.